Yeah, everybody killer trying to make it to the top. We can't take everybody with us. We can't get everybody rich. We can't fuck everybody bitches. I'm afraid to catch a case. I feel like everybody snitching, cold sweats in the shivers. I be having premonitions. Growing up, ain't had no license unless you set to check the engine. Unless we have to spark the wick. Show somebody that we miss them. Oh, we live. Streets got dark and niggas quit, huh? Tell me where you from, I ain't heard of that. In the city, baby, your first rap can be a murder rap. I will let you hold it, but you gotta bring my burner back. One up in the top, I get to drop, you know I'm surfing. What's up, everybody? This is the first time I'm actually going live on YouTube. This is actually me just trying to test it out and see how it's going. Also gonna get live streaming on... All right. I'm also going to get live streaming on our Instagram page for this one. But since Instagram is way bigger of a hater in the terms of music, then YouTube, I figure we just vibe for a little bit to the Vince Staples track that we lighten up listening to tonight. A little 420 gathering. A pre-birthday turn up. Hey, 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 hey. So, we gonna just see, what the vibe is, how this works. We are live streaming our Baked and Blessed 3 Tacoma Takeover event this Friday. And so, we wanted to make sure that was all functional. Come on, we didn't want to just be dudes onto the live streaming on YouTube, right? For such a big event and such a wonderful conversation. So, at this point in time, I'm gonna take a dab. And now we're gonna move on to the next portion, which is getting set up on Instagram as well, and then we can get into this conversation. Hey, wishing, hey, my own. Okay, hey. I got to test the connection on Instagram, make sure we're going good, give them a title, which would be, if you don't know, we are playing Vince Staples' Light Up and Staples album, Ramona Park Broke My Heart. That's what we're lighting up and listening to today, and apparently the dab is working. I don't know how y'all feeling out there right now. Light Up and Vince Staples hashtag LNL and title. Make sure the bun is right. I had a customer today. Okay, as maybe a little introduction. He'll learn more about me during Baked and Blessed. But I'm Lotta. I'm a producer for the Bakersmen Collective, and when I'm not doing that, I am selling weed. Legally, of course. And so today being 420, we were slammed at work, super, super busy. And one of my favorite customers came in and he was like, "You look like an African queen." And I was like, "You damn right." I sure do. I am one. So thank you, my guy. That was probably the best compliment I got all day. Now we are live on Instagram and on YouTube. My goodness, man, I did not know we would ever get here with going live, and I am very pleased that we made it. So, once again, this is Light Up and Listen with the Bakersmen Collective. I'm Lotta. I'm a producer for the Bakersmen Collective. What's going on? What's going on? And we are gathered here to discuss Vince Staples' Ramona Park Broke My Heart, and get into the most recent cannabis legislation that I've been reading up on. I mean, it's not that recent because they've gone through the House and then back to the Senate and then to the House again. So, like, back and forth, tons, but I've just never formally expressed my thoughts about the legislation itself, just how the government works. That's usually what I talk about, which is it's a waste of damn time. Y'all go back and forth talking about something that everyone knows is fact. And the only reason why you go back and forth talking about it is because you really just want to figure out the way y'all can make the most money from it, right? That's always what it is. The only time things go back and forth or take time is when money is relevant. What's popping, everybody? Telefocal Worldwide, I see you out there. We are live streamed to YouTube as well, so the camera John is working. For anybody from Philly, what up, Dante? I know you tapped in from afar. You know what I'm saying? Much love to you and your family. So, with that, again, back to I am grinding up some weed, and I'm gonna tell you about this weed, and then I'm gonna tell you about the track I'm playing. That I have to keep kind of low because Instagram will kick me off pretty quickly. I am rolling up Viking Cannabis's Funfetti. It's a cherry pie animal cookies cross, and the flower itself, not too bad. I'm really enjoying it. Oh, I didn't do it for YouTube. I'm not used to both the cameras, dog. My bad, YouTube. So now, Vince Staples' Ramona part broke my heart. I have literally been thumping this album all month long, and April has been flying. Like, we are approaching the 21st day of this month and my birthday. And dang, if it wasn't for this album, I don't know how I made it through the last few weeks, you know? So, Ramona Park Broke My Heart is a 16-track banger, perfect for the energy of April. Tourist season is upon us, and I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to be grounded. Given if you know me, you know where my zodiac plays. Eclipse season is a little worrisome, but what up, Tilly? How you doing, homie? But you know, when you have great music out there, you can make it through just about anything. That's my personal belief. So, let me just give you a little sound bite. Some of my favorite tracks, right? Yeah, we know Instagram gonna hate. Some of my favorite tracks are A, Free the Homies, which is number 3. Number 6, When Sparks Fly. Number 9, Paper Cuts. Number 10, Lemonade, and number 13, Bang That. And so any of those songs come on, and I'm probably going to turn it up and just kind of drown out the conversation unless we're talking about money, right? And mostly those tracks all talk about money or just enjoying life. But the album itself, like if you look at it, it seemed like the first time you listen to it, you might get confused and think that Vince is talking about a person, like Ramona Park is a human being. And in some elements, yes, like it seems like, you know, love is tied through the message of the song. So love and relationship issues is there. Amen to that. Right? What up, Donnie? But if you really listen to it, it is a conversation about the place where he's from, and how it breaks his heart. Right. And so like not only breaks his heart in like coming out of that environment, shaping who he was as a person and the interactions that he had and the losses that he took throughout life, but just like without that, they wouldn't even be where they are in like making music, you know? So I felt that fully as a transplant in this great state of Washington, coming from Florida, because honestly, you know, at different points, Florida has broken my heart. It definitely has, with its legislation, what it's done with cannabis, all of it. Like over the time, I've never really regretted my choice to beeline and get out of Florida. And that Don't Say Gay bill and all the bills they continue to pass currently, just like solidify my reasonings for leaving. However, I will never abandon the people of Florida, because it is like what the news presents of the like legislators and the people that run Florida and what is actually happening and on the ground are totally different, which is why it's the most favorite state to vacation at. So it's a complicated situation, but you know who's not that complicated? It's Mr. Vince Staples. He's an artist. He's talented. He's signed to Motown and Talib Kweli's Blacksmith Records. born in Compton. Coolest thing that I saw from him was that motherfuckers anime on Netflix. That movie, that jump popping. And then this guy, after receiving so much hate on his like album one time, put out a GoFundMe where he was like, you think I suck that much? Pay me to retire early, bro. And that is the kind of attitude that goes with tourist season. You got a problem with what I'm saying? You got a problem with what I'm doing? Make me discontinue. Make me stop. Pay me to discontinue or shut the fuck up. Yeah, no, he's yes, he's the voice of the main character, I believe. Yeah, bro, the anime is so fire. Thank you for tuning in, Lazy Shirts. But yeah, like, and then I think he's one of the executive directors on that. Like, not just in it, like he's very much involved in the creation process of that anime. So go look that shit up, bro. It's MFKZ is what the like English release of that motherfuckers was. So now let me get to rolling this joint. See, this is the problem. I get into what I'm talking about and the vibes, like this one. Man, this beat, like you thinking you stressed or whatever, it just washes over you. All right? Yeah, it was nuts though. From beginning to end, bro. From beginning to end. Right, right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I stand for Vince Staples on the low, because like he's on the low with his stuff. But what I don't necessarily stand for, I guess you could say I did stand for it on the low after I read it now, is the Safe Banking Act. Recently went through that, and as a ganjapreneur, I do have some strong views towards any cannabis legislation that gets proposed overall, because 90% of the time it's being proposed by people that don't smoke weed. And honestly, it is the most frustrating thing in my life to have to sit down and have conversations about what should and should not be done with weed on any scale. Honestly, it could be the most minor scale to the largest scale. To have a conversation with someone who does not sell weed or has not ever sold weed, like literally never even touched the plant or anything like that, and then they want to talk about how it should be regulated. I just don't know if you are a good resource for that. Not to say that you're not educated, not to say that you can't read the reports, but at some point, individuals like that never speak to people like myself or any of my colleagues, like connection, people that really are, hands in the dirt with this thing. And their policy making, they just overlook it and take a report of a report of a report and go from it. And that's why legal cannabis looks the way it does. Like, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Furthermore, I find that any legislation that gets passed in the United States of America usually gets twisted to impact the BIPOC community, specifically the Black community. But in some way or form, it eventually trickles down, right? So I'm leery of any large-scale legislation that is claiming that it is going to help us in any way, shape, or form having to do with cannabis, because y'all are the same people that hurt us like decades ago. I'm leery of any of it being used to benefit the Black community. So back to the Safe Banking Act. In general, I am mad at you. As a entrepreneur who has had their payment gateways yanked not once, not twice, but 3 times, PayPal, Stripe, and payment wave apps, so their payment system, I know how harmful it can be to your small business and your business operations to not be able to access banking. It sucks. It sucks. It makes you have to conduct business in a very complicated fashion for all parties, even if you are lucky enough to get a bank account for your business. The rest of it is complicated. And say you navigate that and actually get a payment gateway to approve you, they usually want a higher amount of collateral. So they'll like hold a rolling sum. You will end up being charged more to do the electronic payment processing because of the high riskness of your business, even if you are not plant touching at all, like even if you just educate individuals on cannabis. So how is that fair, right? And it's not. There's nothing fair about it, but the Safe Banking Act is something that has been drafted to address it. So my favorite portion was Section 3, protections for ancillary businesses, for the purpose of sections 1956 and 1958 of Title 18, the United States Code, and all other provisions of federal law. The proceeds from a transaction involving activities of a cannabis-related legitimate business or service provider shall not be considered proceeds from an unlawful activity solely because, one, the transaction involves proceeds from a cannabis-related legitimate business or a service provider. 2, the transaction involves proceeds from a cannabis-related activity described in Section 14(4)(b) conducted by a cannabis-related legitimate business or activities described in these sections. Straight up, it's not illegal. And that's what we need it to say. This isn't illegal. And so people who are selling exercise workouts and consuming cannabis during those times don't get their payment gateways yanked. Those people that are not like ourselves selling merch that and our website promotes intentional cannabis use doesn't get their payment gateway yanked. So unfortunately, I think the activists and black individuals in cannabis call out the Safe Banking Act because, in truth, if this were to pass, the only people that would thoroughly benefit from it and get that jump up are the individuals currently in the cannabis industry, definitely plant touching because they make the most money right now, dispensary owners at that, specifically retail store owners. They make the most profit off of cannabis, besides the legislative system in Washington, at least you know how it taxes. So they would inherently benefit from this access to all the banks, and we continue to have that same deficit of non-BIPOC individuals in the industry and individuals who've had generational wealth passed down to make it possible for them to even afford the high startup cost to get into the industry, just get to run away with it. Right now, they've got the thing that's been kind of holding them back out of the way. Boom, we're full speed ahead. And they try to adjust this with an annual diversity and inclusion report in there that like, what would that do? I really want to know. We do a census every year and that still doesn't change the amount of police brutality. It doesn't change anything in America or the state of existence of being BIPOC in America. So my question is, what's your purpose for this annual review of the industry and report to see how many BIPOC individuals actually make it in? You know the statistics. It's trash right now, right? So it's a performative. And the information will likely not be used to benefit the BIPOC community because there's no provisions in this so that the information gets used to benefit that community. So what's your point? And that's really it for me with the Safe Banking Act. Yay, nay, like, yay, I would benefit from it as a current business owner that has suffered multiple blows as a result of not being able to access banking. Do I want to see that passed before I want to see the MORE Act passed? I don't think so. Do I want to see the MORE Act passed in its current state? Nah. Let's get into it. I rolled up a joint. Actually, brief intermission on any of this hard, complicated talk, and it's really not that complicated. It's just real talk. Like, this is really how I view the legislation that I've read, and I want to ensure that people who mess with the Bakersmen Collective and get down with what we have to say really hear standpoint from it. What I will be smoking as soon as this live goes off when I go to walk my dogs is this Budco Blackberry Punch, which is a NYC Diesel Blackberry Kush cross. 2 gram palm leaf distillate covered distillate and I don't know, keef covered blunt. So I am excited for that high. That's my 420 celebration right there. Since we're taking an intermission, I like to say that I've been a fan of Vince since the Queenbridge Zoo video. Okay, then come through with it. Yeah, hell, I'll even turn up the music. I don't know if we're still on the album though. It tends to switch on me when I'm rambling about the seriousness of stuff. Yeah, we had Paper Cuts. I told you this is one of my favorites. Okay, man. I try to think back of like a favorite album or music for Vince, and I don't necessarily have one. The song is 10 years old. Yeah, okay. OG in the game. But when I played, like, I've heard him in Insecure. Like I said, I've seen his other artistic things. I've heard a couple of tracks and I thought they were fire. But I do think his skill as a lyricist and his flow has progressed over time, and it just came together beautifully on this album. And honestly, sometimes it gets like that, right? Like that you finally have enough of life experience and trials and tribulations that when you go to lock in on a next piece of art, it is like it just comes from the soul and it's felt. And that's what I think this album is going to do for him. Oh yeah, you totally agree. Yeah. So if you're not listening to it, what are you doing? You might be listening to the Boss album that recently just dropped. You might be playing that Denzel Curry Back to Get Back, but put it in your rotation, dog. Put it in the rotation. Come on. Okay, so because I honestly, as much as it seems that I love to sit around and chat, I like to sleep and smoke weed, and we are slowing this down, but yay, Vince. So the More Act, man, I have definitely shared, not just me personally on my page, on my own personal social media, but we, the Bakersmen Collective, has shared various opinions on the More Act over time and critiques on it, and they have all been valid. But let's just get into it, right? Overall, our thoughts on the More Act. It can create change for the community if it's worked on. Given if like it needs to improve on its intent to distribute guidelines, and more so like the penalization portion that comes with the act itself. I just don't. It's not it for me, So what it does do is decriminalize cannabis. Yay. That is what actually needs to happen. Cannabis needs to be decriminalized. I don't care about legalization. Just stop making it a sentenciable crime. Like what? An enforceable crime. Like it grows from the earth. This is a plant. You are putting people in like people in prison for doing the thing that you have allowed states to individually legalize on. Like this makes no sense. There are people still sitting in jail on the East Coast for being early entrepreneurs while individuals are buying boats and cars off of money that they make in the cannabis industry. How are you okay with this? Anyone? How do any of you legislators sleep at night knowing this one fact? Because it haunts me, right? It would establish an opportunity trust fund. It would create a tax on cannabis imported or in the United States, and it starts at 5% and goes up to 8% over the years. And just cannabis is $1 billion industry, so it's a large sum. This is a lot of money. They are not going to decriminalize cannabis without getting their cut. You feel me? create a community reinvestment grant and an equitable licensing grant program. So when I say that this would be good for the community, I am specifically talking about the BIPOC community, the Black community. This piece of legislation, should it pass, actually requires them to deal directly with individuals that have been impacted on the war on drugs and expunge records, and so address a lot of the things that needs to be done if you are talking cannabis legislation, because what cannabis prohibition did was impact these communities. That's it. So address it when you're trying to get your coin. You know what I mean? Come shake hands with the community that is responsible for the entire culture related around cannabis. If you want to talk about it historically, come on down. And if you don't want to do that, United States, if you don't want to find a way to make it easy and equitable for individuals that have been, individuals, family, just, if you don't want to do that, then make it free for everybody. Free the people, free the planet. And that's where we stand on it. So, greatest things that I could pick out, they got straight to the facts in the beginning of this legislation. Total of 47 states have reformed their laws pertaining to cannabis despite the Schedule 1 status of marijuana and its federal criminalization. 47. Legal cannabis sales totaled, 20 billion? 20? Yeah, that's 9 zeros. Right? I don't even want to get into it. In 2020, and are projected... when I tell you there's money involved in cannabis, there's money involved in cannabis. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, enforcing cannabis prohibition laws cost taxpayers approximately $3.6 billion a year. So you could just stop spending that money and put it back in to your state, and maybe reinvest in the education or the health, you know what I mean, of your actual constituents, instead of penalizing cannabis, because people are going to use it anyway. What you have tried to deny historically is that the medicinal impact of that cannabis has. And you can't deny it because all the studies are coming out to prove what have been anecdotal claims to be true. And some of the processes aren't completely proved, but here we are. The continued enforcement of cannabis prohibition laws results in over 600,000 arrests annually, disproportionately impacting people of color who are almost 4 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis possession than their white counterparts. Despite, sorry, I want to make sure the other camera didn't turn off. Despite equal rates of use across populations. Fact. People of color have been historically targeted by discriminatory sentencing practices, resulting in Black men receiving drug sentences that are 13.1% longer than sentences imposed for white men, and Latinos nearly 6.5 times more likely to receive a federal sentence for cannabis possession than non-Hispanic whites. Fact. Fewer than 1/5 of cannabis business owners identify as minorities, and only approximately 4% are Black. Man, stop playing. You come to Washington. They only have a 4.4% Black population in the state entirely. In the state of Washington, 4.4%. How many do you think actually own a cannabis business? Applicants for cannabis licenses are limited by numerous laws, regulations, and exorbitant permit applications, licensing fees, and costs in these states, which require more than $700,000. Yeah, easily. And most of them require you have up to $2 million liquid just at all times chilling in an account, just in case you have some liabilities. Historically, disproportionate arrest and conviction rates make it particularly difficult for people of color to enter the legal cannabis marketplace, as most states bar these individuals from participating. Don't you find that suspicious? Federal law severely limits access to loans and capital for cannabis businesses, disproportionately impacting minority small business owners. Yeah, or even minorities that work in cannabis right now. Like, go ahead and get that loan. Go ahead and try. Some states and municipalities have taken proactive steps to mitigate inequalities in the legal cannabis marketplace and ensure equal participation in the industry, and still do not have it, even with legislation. And that should tell you exactly the struggles that minority business owners face getting into cannabis. If even with legislation making it possible, you still are having trouble getting into the industry and are barred because of individuals finding loopholes into it so that you're not considered an applicant or a quality applicant, what's the problem? America's unaddressed racism. The biggest issue, the criminal penalties. I don't ever want to really see cannabis legislation written with penalties. Like, unless it's like tax evasion, you know what I mean? Specifically. But how, just, here we go. I'll just read it. Fraudulent offenses. Whoever with the intent to defraud the United States. Like, most of your legislators defraud you on a regularly. Actually, most of your celebrated technology business owners and all of them, yeah, they defraud you on a regular. They find it's legal. They find the tax evading loopholes, but they do it. Not any cannabis business owners. Don't let that happen. Engages in the business as a cannabis enterprise without filing the application, obtaining the permit where required by this chapter or regulations thereunder. So if I were to put a seed in the ground and grow a plant, and I don't send in an application to make sure I can do that, now I'm being penalized. Fails to keep or make any record, return, report, or inventory to keep or make any false or fraudulent record, return, report, or inventory required by this chapter or regulations thereunder. So, like, you miss one document, you get penalized. Refuses to pay any tax imposed by this chapter or attempts in any manner to evade or defeat the tax or the payment thereof. Well, yeah, it's tax evasion. You have to have some, and if they're going to tax it, there has to be a criminal, like a piece of legislation that enforces, that tax, making it real. Purchases, receives, or possesses with intent to redistribute or sell any cannabis product. What? And upon which the tax has not been paid or determined in the manner at the time prescribed by this chapter regulations thereunder, which without payment of tax pursuant to section 5904 has been diverted from the applicable purpose or use specified by that in that section. Jesus, legislation. This is the most important part. For each offense, be fined not more than $10,000 or in prison not more than 5 years. So you can still go to jail. What? You are expunging cannabis records and still adding a piece that makes it possible to get a cannabis record. How did y'all sit down? How did y'all sit down and go, yeah, we see why you shouldn't go to jail for selling cannabis, but if you misfile now that we make cannabis legal, you're gonna go to jail for cannabis? Like, isn't the idea of being jailed for cannabis dumb? Like, haven't we all agreed on that standpoint? Anyway, that is my feelings about the MORE Act. That is my feelings about the Safe Banking Act. I stand for the Vince Staples Ramona Park Broke My Heart album. Please go listen to it, all 16 tracks. And if you don't get it the first time, listen again. Stay baked. Stay blessed, and we'll see you at Baked and Blessed, April 22nd, this Friday, 7 p.m. If you don't have a ticket, Well, I guess you didn't receive the email with the venue. It goes out again the day of the event at 4:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please get your tickets or tune into our live stream now that we've got this thing jumping. And we out. I'm gonna hang out on YouTube for a little bit longer, but Instagram, bye-bye. So what y'all think? YouTube, is this something we want to do again? Do you want to provide some feedback? How can we make this more pleasurable of an experience for you? And we'll see you again on Friday.